It was nice and quiet until just now. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Stein, and I'm the host of the Surfing the Tsunami of Change workshop series. This is the first one in the series. Our guest tonight, Dr. Joel Fuhrman. He's a board certified family physician, 7 times New York Times best-selling author, and internationally recognized expert on nutrition and natural healing. He is the president of the Nutritional Research Foundation. Dr. Fuhrman's 5 PBS specials have raised more than $50 million for public broadcasting. We're really privileged and proud to have him here. The working title, Digital Wellness Toolkit. Welcome, Dr. Fuhrman.
Hi, great to be here. And thanks all of you for joining us today. Yeah, it's a good, we'll have a little interactive session, and I could bring people up to date on the most critical changes, most critical things they could be thinking about today in a world today where people are, where the people were dying needlessly of cancer, heart attacks, and strokes, and a little dementia thrown into that as well. And now we have an added element of increased risk of infectious diseases. And I'm saying something quite radical, and I want you to make sure you're very clear on this. But I know this is very contrary to what you're hearing from the other people, or other, especially the media. Is I'm saying that almost nobody has to ever die of a heart attack or a stroke, even though it's a leading cause of death in America. In other words, I'm saying nutritional science has made such radical advances that we can devise a nutritional program so that 99% of people that are prone to heart attacks never will have to have a heart attack or even a stroke. We could wipe out the leading causes of death for people across the country. And I'm also saying something so radical is that after 50 years of trying to fight the war on cancer and losing, spending billions of dollars on a pharmaceutical answer, we could lick cancer and wipe that out as well, and wipe out at least 90% of common cancers if people use this recent advances in nutritional science to live longer and better and happier than ever before. Now, added to that, as many people are aware, is that most people that are hospitalized and die of COVID are people who are malnourished and overweight. And I'm saying to you that all overweight people are malnourished, because the reason they become overweight is because they're malnourished and they're not eating food, because sugar and white flour are not food. Those are addictive drugs, and they act like a drug in the body, and they can't be metabolized for energy without stripping the body of micronutrients and producing a huge amount of oxidation, which then creates disease, infection, inflammation, and they're highly addicting. Food means you get nutrients, you get calories, which are called macronutrients, along with micronutrients that the body can utilize to sustain its lifespan. And the micronutrients utilize the metabolism of macronutrients, and macronutrients are fat, carbohydrate, and protein, the only 3 sources of calories. To utilize calories, we have to metabolize them utilizing biochemical events to create energy, strength, to build tissues.
Come.
Somebody unmuted themselves. Can you guys keep remuting people? Maybe make it so they can't unmute themselves. Okay, can you hear me okay? Everything okay? Okay, so what I was saying here is that when we utilize macronutrients or calories for energy, for building blocks, and for repair, when we do that, it utilizes micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals that don't contain calories. So food generally supplies us with the micronutrients to metabolize and utilize those calories. But when we eat processed foods, like especially things like honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, sugar, and white flour, because white flour is sugar. There's no biochemical difference for eating a croissant or a bagel or a piece of cake or a cookie or a pizza or a burger bun and shoveling sugar cubes in your mouth or eating candy bars or marshmallows. It's all the same thing because it enters the body as glucose and fructose. In other words, agave nectar is mostly fructose. Sucrose is a mixture of glucose and fructose. Honey is half fructose, half glucose. Maple syrup is mostly glucose, but they all enter the bloodstream as either fructose or glucose, and they have detrimental effects, and they have brain addictive effects to make you want to consume more calories, and you can't stop because they hit the bliss point. They stimulate dopamine receptors in the brain, and they start to strip the body of nutrients and lay the onset of damage for depression, other mental illnesses, loss of brain cells, dementia, and accelerating the aging process. And you're aging and causing destruction with every bite and so we get, we get the malnourished obese who are now prone to infection because their body is chronically inflamed because we produce too much reactive oxygen species, too many as a form of free radicals, because the body doesn't have the micronutrients to metabolize energy that doesn't contain real food, doesn't have the nutrients that real food has. So you can see sugar and white flour are a drug or a substance causing destruction. And then we put fat on the body and the body tries to compensate by overeating and becoming a calorie consuming monster because you're not getting enough nutrients and you feel fatigued and wiped out all the time unless you constantly eat all the time. And then unfortunately people become addicts and then they get this infection like COVID and they die in the hospital because they have cytokine storm, because fat cells spew out lipokines and cytokines and inflammatory mediators and cause an incredible amount of inability of the immune system to function normally and fight off simple infections.
Wow. Could I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So, this is part of Wisdom Feed. And one of the things that we try to do is take ancient ideas and bring them down to street level, for the common kitchen table kind of goodness. So two things. It's ironic. Don't know if that's the right word, that overweight people are malnourished. And the other point is, for years, my kids think I'm the health food dad because I have no high fructose corn syrup in the house, but I always serve with pride maple syrup because I figure it's sweet, it tastes good, but there must be some minerals. So you think have I been lying to my kids all these years? It's just like eating cotton candy?
That's correct.
Oh no.
It's like saying, well, salt is bad for you, but it's okay to eat Himalayan salt or salt from the Rock of Gibraltar or the backside of the moon. It doesn't matter. The mineral content of natural salts is insignificant, and it's the large sodium content that causes the damage. The fact that you added an insignificant amount of minerals to the salt doesn't make a natural salt healthier. Sea salt is not any better. It's all the same 2,200 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon. And sugar is the same thing, whether it's sugar, honey, maple syrup, coconut sugar, agave nectar, or any kind of concentrated sweeteners. They're all dangerous and they drive overeating behavior. And because the calories enter the bloodstream so rapidly, in the medical profession, when we inject a drug into the bloodstream with a needle, we call it a bolus because a lot comes in all at once. When you ate, some steel-cut oatmeal or some beans, the calories would come in at 1 or 2 calories a minute. But when you're eating sugar, maple syrup, or honey, you're getting 40 to 50 calories a minute. The spike in sugar in the bloodstream, then, of course, the body has to respond with a spike of insulin. And insulin is a fat storage hormone that promotes cellular replication and growth, which then allows cancer cells to replicate. But this spike of sugar in the bloodstream damages brain cells and stimulates the same opiate receptors and dopamine receptors in the brain that are stimulated by narcotics and opiates, and which makes you want to eat more and more, crave it all the time and think about it and constantly be attracted for it. You got to have your bread, you got to have your marshmallows, you got to have sweets after your meal, you got to eat sweet, sweet, sweet. You're not satisfied with a strawberry, it's not sweet enough. You're not satisfied with an apple, it's not sweet enough. You got to have something unnaturally sweet. And then you can't even appreciate there's much sweetness in a strawberry or blueberry anymore. Even lettuce doesn't taste sweet, and a carrot's not even that sweet. Nothing tastes sweet because you're so overstimulated with sweets. But now the receptors in the brain become dopamine insensitive over time, and you require large amount of stimulation to get the same sensation of feeling satisfied. So now you're not satisfied until you have even more calories and more flood of the bloodstream and more sugar, and you become this calorie consuming monster with no self-control, and you're governed by instant gratification, and you eat now to oppose your own best interests. You'd think people would be smart enough to eat to live longer and be happy, but now they eat to cause depression and destroy their brain cells and to make them into unhealthy, and maybe they're going to die of COVID, and the food doesn't taste that good once you're in the coffin.
So, boy, that's true. I would imagine. I hope not to find out too soon, but I would imagine that's
I always say the whiter the bread, the sooner you're bred. It's the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead.
Wow.
And of course, I always say that, it's not going to taste so good once you're in the coffin, but the people listening, this is what they think. They think, oh, this sounds important and scientific and good, but it's not for me because I want to enjoy my life more and I'm too addicted to the food already. And, I'd rather just die younger and have more pleasure in life eating the food I want to eat. And, who wants to live that long anyway? And, who wants to live long, especially if you're not going to be happy eating the foods you enjoy? And I'd rather be dead right now if I can't eat the foods I like. These are the things that are going through people's minds. This is how addicts think. They always have some irrational and ridiculous rationalization why it's okay to continue smoking, snorting, drinking, shooting, drugging themselves, because the drugs and sugar and these things are drugs, and maple syrup is like a drug, takes over the part of your primitive brain. You desire to want more of it, and then your cerebral brain is coming up with reasons why because it doesn't want to create a discord. You call it cognitive dissonance between the two parts of the brain fighting each other. So you look for excuses why it's okay to just live that way, even though the excuses are ridiculous. So, only addicts make up excuses like that.
Right. So, and in these stressful times, there's a lot of unwanted. I like to look at things scientifically. I'm not a scientist, but I like to try to look at it, so my friends from Brooklyn can kind of get it. I have a friend who recently had a multiple bypass heart surgery, and I told him about Dean Ornish. He checked it out, and all of a sudden he's a vegan and meditates 3 times a day. So it's really, talk about how
he should have done that before he had the bypass surgery.
Exactly.
Isn't this crazy? This reminds me of the cardiologists who tell people that once they have severe heart disease, cut back on salt and change your diet. How stupid is that, right? The point is that if it was better for a person who's sick to cut back on salt and change your diet, would have been better for a person who was well to do that and never get sick to begin with. Once you put a stent in or you put a vein in where the artery is supposed to be, your heart's never the same. And you're increased risk of having hemorrhagic stroke and gastrointestinal bleed. You got to be on blood thinners the rest of your life. In other words, all I'm saying right now to everybody listening is don't wait till something bad happens to you. Now's the time to make the change while you're well, right? Because this friend made that change after he got sick and had the bypass or the heart attack, whatever happened. But great, he found that he woke up to something that could help him. But now we've got to do it, not wait till something bad happens. Because with COVID around, something bad could be your hospitalization or even something serious. And I'm saying, why is this not all over the media? And why aren't this in the front of everybody's tongue that COVID is killing people who are more malnourished and more overweight and have comorbidities like diabetes and high blood pressure? And why isn't everybody trying to use nutritional excellence to achieve great health, to save their lives? It's interesting how the idea of cancer 30 years from now of eating junk food and processed food and meats and red meats and processed meats and all these things didn't scare them enough. They're going to keep, just waiting. They figure, well, an addict makes you so involved with instant gratification that you don't have the ability to make long-term decisions for your life.
Right.
So now the risk of COVID could be your next month or your next 6 months could be right in your face, and people are still not changing their diet. As a matter of fact, they're going the other way, right?
Well, that's where I think kind of the thrust of what I think is kind of really important for people to have in mind as we go through this. So there's stress more stress than ever, arguably. there's less access. A lot of people don't have access to healthy foods, and people go on autopilot until they hit a brick wall, most people, and they have a healing crisis. So how does mindfulness and emotion, I'm just wondering, and even a sports metaphor, like people from the neighborhood, they get it. You could be in the zone, like Steph Curry's in the zone, but he eats well. I don't know for a fact. I think he meditates and eats well, but how does that play, and why is it so important, and what can people do? I just want to say people can feel free to enter questions in the chat, and we will pick them out later. In about 15, 20 minutes, we'll start a Q&A. So feel free to enter any questions in the chat.
Let me make 3 points. Number one is that commercial baked goods and fast food and sweets cause depression in a dose-dependent manner. And that they also dummy you down and interfere with your intelligence and creativity. So the stresses in your life and the ability to handle stress and to be the full human you could become, the most compassionate, intelligent, creative you, to be educationally, to pursue your education, to be best in your job, to be a good provider, and to be happy and healthy and a good person for other people around you. That's all weakened by eating poorly. And so now stress is elevated because you don't have your full faculties to handle stress in your life, and probably is your addiction creates the stress in your life. A person says, oh, it's not the right time for me to quit smoking. I have so much stress in my life right now. Well, your addictions is what are making it unable for you to get out of your stress and making you into a different personality, because you're more easily angered. You have lost your creativity. You no longer have as good a memory or can think as logically, because now your brain is focused on meeting your addictive needs, which is for instant gratification, and you lose the cerebral full human you could have been.
So how do you break that cycle? Life is busy, is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans and you're just eating food on the run and out of nerves. So how does one, break that cycle? Because I'm constantly, personally and for my kids, kind of grappling with that.
The start is knowledge, because you have to take the initiative to learn first. And then you have to be determined to make a change, and it has to be a radical change. Because when you're dabbling in cocaine, you're not going to want to get off of it. And if you're dabbling in sugar, baby stepping your way to make your diet a little healthier is very difficult for people, because when they continue to take these addictive substances, they keep wanting them more and more. And everybody knows most people fail on diets. They fail on diets because it's like telling people to breathe less oxygen. I'm saying something very different. I'm saying go all the way to what I'm advocating, to nutritional excellence, which I call a nutritarian diet, and start to flood your body with nutrients and vow to stay off the junk food, and you'll feel it'll be tough for a week or so, and your taste buds will take a few months to get stronger and to like all the different recipes. But the new you will give you a tremendous amount of vigor, vitality, passion, and excitement about life. I'm saying that even though I said commercial baked goods and sweets and fast food is linked to major depression in a dose-dependent manner, so even 2 servings a week doubles your lifetime risk of developing depression. But most people eating, 5, 10, 15 servings a week, I'm saying right now the whole population is addicted to some degree and is universally dysthymic. The word dysthymia means that they're not quite depressed, but they're not that excited about life. They're not that passionate about helping the humanity and accomplish their own accomplishment, excited to get up every day. They just go to work to make money so they can go and imbibe in their favorite addictions, and they go to restaurants or fast food stores or drink alcohol or smoke, whatever they want to do to just continue to stroke their ego, and they become more involved with instant gratifications, no thoughts for the future of themselves, their family, humanity, protecting, in other words, they become more narrowly focused and even narcissistic to a degree. Of course, that when you're a drug addict, you can steal, cheat, lie, hurt other people. You can do anything because your drug addiction starts to become the thing controlling your life. And food addiction is not so different, that the more you're a food addict and the more you've controlled, your brain has been taken over by these addictive substances and oil and sweets and these concentrated calories made hyper palatable that hit the bliss point make people into food addicts. And you can't get off the alcohol, well, you're still going to bars, and you can't get off the sugar and the oil, and this, you stop going to fast food restaurants and stop eating this stuff. You've got to get it out of your house. If it's in your house, it's going to be in your mouth. You have to get a big garbage bag, clean it out, and restructure your diet differently, learn and change the way you eat. Like, I recommend everybody have the same lunch. Everyone across the world should be eating a lunch of a giant salad of raw vegetables, tomatoes and lettuce and bok choy and kale and Brussels sprouts and beans and mushrooms and a nut dressing and a bowl of vegetable bean soup and a piece of fruit for dessert. You might change the dressing, change the soups, change the, but here we're talking about a large salad. There's the most consistent and powerful association with reduction of cancers of all type is the consumption of vegetables, particularly raw vegetables and particularly raw green vegetables. And if you don't like raw green vegetables and you won't eat lettuce and kale and other things raw, then you better live close to a hospital or expect, because we're green vegetable dependent animals. We're primates. If we don't eat them, we can't be normal. So I'm trying to make people face reality and realize that when you have a foot in both worlds and you try to be a little bit healthy, but you're still going to imbibe with all the junk food, you're always craving the junk food. You're never satisfied with a healthy meal. You don't feel good about it until you really give that up for a long enough period of time. Perseverance, dedication, and repetition. Then you eventually learn to love eating this way. Your taste buds adapt. You like the recipes. You lose your cravings and emotional attachments to those dangerous foods, and you get pleasure and mindful the fact that you're appreciating the world around you and the miraculous wonder in natural foods that have all these healing properties to keep us well. And you enjoy what you're eating with no guilt or conflict, and you become much happier and you enjoy eating more, not less. It's this ignorance that makes people think they're enjoying themselves less as they commit suicide with food. It's funny, as you brought up that athlete, I was thinking of Roger Federer, the famous tennis player. If you look at his strokes in slow motion, he brings that racket back where the height of the racket doesn't move. It gets to 180 degrees, not 175. And he comes back and his elbow straightens. It doesn't bend till it gets to his chin. Then he starts to bend it. His belly button turns to face the aiming spot. His head stays on the contact point with the ball, even if the ball leaves the racket. What I'm saying right now is he had such excellent training, even when he was young, by phenomenal coaches that gave him such perfect technique. And you only can develop that through taking with determination and repetition and practice of the right things over and over again. Just practicing the wrong things, just practice doesn't make you better. You have to practice things correctly to get better. And you have to not care whether you win or lost the game or where the ball went. You just have to have perfect strokes and get the perfect movements. And you show that this person had tremendous dedication, perseverance, repetition, and coaching, doing things right, so that he could, so it becomes automatic. It's just the way he swings the racket, and it just goes because he must have done, because he had such excellent training. It's the same thing with food. For a while, you just got to do it right, even if you're not loving it, even if the results aren't all there yet. You just do the right thing, and eventually everything starts to come together. You start liking it more. Your taste buds get stronger. You learn you don't crave those foods anymore. You start to become happier. You think more clearly. You lose the brain fog, and your life becomes so much. And now you can live a life to 100 years old without fear. And the fear of disease is a cause of disease. The fear of getting mammograms and thinking about cancer all the time and being worried about getting this and going to doctors and getting screened and having blood tests and getting and all these, and being worried about death and having all this stuff is not good for your health, to be nervous and worried about diseases all the time. These things aren't natural. They're unnatural because we're not taking advantage. We're eating an unnatural diet, and we're not taking advantage of this unprecedented opportunity in human history, where we have so much nutritional science and so many studies documenting how we can protect ourselves from these diseases that are food-related diseases. Almost all these diseases, cancer, strokes, heart attack, dementia, depression, and now infection, are food-caused diseases. The virus is almost insignificant to a person that's really healthy.
Wow. That's a quote right there. So before I interrupted you earlier, you said there were three things that you wanted to talk about. One was sweets and depression. Do you remember the other two?
Yes. The other one was that the most prominent and surprising findings in the nutritional research over the last, let's say, decade was that as people lower animal protein in their diet and raise the amount of plant protein they're eating, they have dramatic enhancement in lifespan. And as they go the other way and increase animal protein in their diet, they have more risk of premature death, of early life death. So we know that it's not just processed foods and sweets, but I'm saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel because they're both sources of calories, concentrated calories, but they're not micronutrient rich. They don't contain phytochemicals, antioxidants, rich in vitamins and minerals. So it's the colorful plants and having a wide assortment of colorful plants that we're striving for people to eat right here. So I'm saying that high protein plant foods like beans and nuts and green vegetables are dramatically lifespan enhancing. And the other thing is, and the most remarkable finding, is that the higher consumption of nuts and seeds in the diet have dramatic effects to reduce heart attack deaths by 40%, even 1.5 ounces of nuts and seeds a day compared to people in half an ounce a day have a difference in heart attack rates of 40%. And of course, reducing all causes death, including cancer deaths and increasing lifespan. And we're talking about not using oil or animal fats, not using butter, olive oil, coconut oil. Okay, we're talking here about eating the whole walnut, not the walnut oil, the whole sesame seed, not the sesame oil, the whole avocado, not the avocado oil, the whole olive, not the olive oil. We're talking about eating whole food sources of fat has dramatic protective effects on extending people's lifespan as well, and it facilitates the absorption of the fat-soluble compounds in these phytochemicals that come into the bloodstream better when you eat fat with the meal. Our modern world has kind of mutated in a perverted diet where the fats come from oils, which is a processed food without the fibers and polyphenols and micronutrients in the whole food, the sterols, the stanols, everything's missing. We're taking in concentrated addictive calories, and then we're eating mostly animal products instead of, as a primate, living on mostly, obviously, colorful, a wide assortment of plants. So people are so confused, going the wrong way. And I wrote down in my book, Superimmunity, which I wrote more than 5 years ago, how this type of infections were going to become very prevalent and kill millions of people. And even the World Health Organization, before the COVID infection struck, predicted that infectious deaths, which was increasing for the last decade, is going to explode at some point in the future with a smaller world, with more travel and more consumption of a lower micronutrient diet and more obesity. And we knew that this was going to happen to some degree, and it's going to happen. And even if COVID goes away, it's going to happen again with other infections in the near future if we keep going the way we've been going, and with total what you could say, rolling down the cliff of living a life where your body doesn't have normal function, just trying to survive on drugs with poor nutrients, and then have your body fall apart at the age of 65. And Americans have the worst healthy life expectancy, almost any country around the world, but other countries are getting worse, of course, as we export American way of life to their more fast food and processed foods, has penetrated the areas of the world that were living more naturally. Now we've exporting our cancer epidemic as well. But while this is happening and while people's waistlines are getting bigger, we have more definitive science that have the answer for people.
And so what 2 or 3 things, I know you say just go for it, but I know when I eat better or eat well, I tend to continue to eat well. But then I'll get into, with my kids running around, and I don't do white flour anymore, but it's something that I think people are interested in. Well, what things can I do? Small steps that will get you closer to what you need, what you want to do.
Right. And I don't really think small steps do anything or do much. anyway, but we could talk about it. Even when I wrote my most famous book is Eat to Live, first written in 2004 and revised in 2011, but I recommend people read my latest book, which is Eat for Life, because it's more updated with modern research and more comprehensive. But I'm saying this because even when I wrote Eat for Live in 2004, in the first chapter I wrote, don't change your diet. Don't think about anything yet. Don't make any decision. Just keep reading, underline, use a highlighter, finish reading the book, get totally informed and educated. Think about how you've been misinformed and miseducated and you don't have enough information to make the right decisions. It's saying, let people do what they want, sure, but let them be properly educated so that when they do make that choice, they're doing it from a position of knowledge, not from a position of ignorance. So I'm saying, learn about the nature of food addiction, learn about how you change, because if many people, they baby step and they'll just get a little information, they'll not stacking the deck in their favor. So when they make the change, they can assure they're going to do it right, love it, and not fail. So I just want people to get enough information. I know it sounds like I'm promoting my own book, but obviously I know from years of experience that change is difficult for people. And the more tools and knowledge they have, I know from experience that the people that know the most and have learned the most and retained it have the easiest time and enjoy the change and are more successful doing it. And some people are addicts and they need help making those changes. That's why I have a retreat here in San Diego where people who are food addicts, overweight food addicts, come in maybe for 2 to 3 months to reset their body and reset their taste, and not just lose weight, but know how to learn to live when they go home and prefer eating this way when they go home. And you have to duplicate that mentality, because most people aren't going to come to my retreat, but you have to duplicate that at home. In other words, you have to make your home a safe place. Get a big construction garbage bag and dump out all the stuff and support the help of your family. And Steve, say to your children, I'm coming off maple syrup. I'm going to start eating healthy, and I want you guys to watch me to make sure I stay on track, because I'm really into, I'm going to measure, I'm going to do what Dr. Fuhrman says and eat my Gbombs every day. I'm going to have a big mixed vegetable dish for dinner where they'll make a delicious sauce made with nuts and seeds and not oil. And I'm going to make some of these recipes at least twice a week. And if you guys want to help me, in other words, what I'm saying is when you're quitting smoking, you have to enlist the support of your community and announce it to the world that you're quitting smoking. You have to lay down the gauntlet and say, I'm not going to smoke anymore. Get rid of the ashtrays, get the cigarettes out of my life, not going to be around people that are smoking. The alcoholics can't hang out in the bars. And if you want to make this change, most people have to try to change their environment and really know what they're doing, get the great recipes, pick out the ones they like, and do this right. Because this is a tremendous opportunity in human history, really, and that we need to jump into healthy eating now to lose our excess weight. Overweight people are at 7 times the risk of COVID death or infectious disease death, 7 times the risk. But even being 10 pounds overweight increases your risk significantly. There's no 10 pounds overweight hyenas and coyotes and, deer and squirrels and bobcats and there's not animals running around the woods with 10 or 20 or 30 pounds of extra fat on their body. They're all lean and weigh about the same, and humans should all be lean. They shouldn't have buildup of fat on their body. We've accepted the fact that we think it's normal to be abnormal and have a pouch of fat hanging on your waist like a kangaroo, like a big pouch of fat hanging over your belt. People accept as normal. That's not normal. It's pathologic. So fat cells spew out reactive oxygen species, sequester nutrients away from the organs that need them, including the brain, make you insulin resistant, which then raises your glucose and insulin response to a carbohydrate, and excite aromatase enzymes, which produce more estrogen in the body, which then increases risk of breast and prostate cancer. Fat cells are dangerous on the body, but we've just accepted it. Because everybody's fat, so it's okay to be fat.
I have a question for you. So a lot of things, I'm taking a lot of notes, but if potentially the name of this talk, we end up calling it, Don't Change Your Diet, what would the the second half of that be? Change your mind, change your lifestyle, because you say incremental is not really going to cut it, but is that making sense? I mean, that
Yes.
struck me. Don't change your diet because it's like,
because I'm always saying that the nutritional science is the most critical thing people need to know to protect their life's destiny. And it should be reading, writing, arithmetic, and nutritional science taught in grade school. And we should be reading nutritional science texts and sharing it with our family and understanding how we can change the trajectory of the human species. Instead of destroying the planet and all being sick, we can all be well and healthy and not fear disease and protect our planet at the same time and protect our environment. And we got to think differently. So we have to say, okay, yes, so don't change your diet. Become a nutritional expert, and then you'll want to change your diet. Learn the information, develop some degree of nutritional expertise. And then obviously I do want people to change their diet. But when you have this degree of expertise that you can easily develop, by reading a few books or watching some videos, get more expertise, and then you'll see what a joyous experience this is to gain back your health and to feel the best you've ever felt in your life and throw away your drugs and your crutches.
Wow, excellent. So very good stuff. So I'm just going to pause for a second, and we're going to read the Q&A in a few minutes. So after I've been doing Mind, Body, Spirit publishing of audiobooks for 40 years, it's a long time. And because cancer hit my family when I was young. So it kind of really struck a chord. So I just want to let you know that after some good nudging, you talk about community, our goal is we're creating this thing, Wisdom Feed Plus. And it's going to be a membership community, and it's mind, body, spirit, and support groups, and having experts. Hopefully Dr. Fuhrman will be a part of it again in some way. And we're really thankful that, he's imparting this amazing wisdom today. So I put a link in the chat. It's to join on our wait list so you could find out more about Wisdom Feed Plus. It's a new community. It's limited to a number of people, and no sales pitch. But if you're interested, click on the link and sign up. You'll get emails about it. So thank you for that. And let's see, a couple of questions. Speaking of salads, do you still recommend blending greens into smoothie?
Sure, that's great things people can have as salad, blended salads or green smoothies. But I also want them to just chew a salad and eat it too, or they can just do whatever they feel like doing for that day. But it's great to get some greens in. No matter how you get them in, it's great to get them in. But remember, I'm saying when you eat a salad, it's really important to chew it really well, because if you can break those cell walls down, you produce more of those anti-cancer compounds. There's actually an enzyme in the cell wall of green cruciferous vegetables like kale and broccoli and arugula called myrosinase, is that enzyme. And when you break open the cell, you form the anti-cancer chemicals called isothiocyanates, or ITCs, in the mouth. I'm telling you this because the better you chew the salad and the more you liquefy it in your mouth before you swallow it, the more nutritional value you have and the better it supports super immunity. So yeah, chew the salad, have a blended salad smoothie if you're in a rush sometimes, or you want to try that. All those things are good options.
Okay, another question from Julie. Are eggs okay to eat? And are there any animal products okay to eat?
Well, we're saying that you can dial up your IGF-1 to where you want it. IGF-1 stands for insulin-like growth factor 1, and it's a hormone that promotes growth and cellular replication. Now, we want to grow when we're a kid, but as adults, if we're taking a lot of growth hormone, then you're going to be promoting things that shouldn't be growing. And especially when insulin rises and IGF-1 rises together, then you have the witch's cauldron, that combination that promotes cancer. And I'm saying that the strongest controller of IGF-1 is the animal protein you're eating. So as you eat more, because it's a high biological protein that's biologically complete, and the excess protein that you consume isn't easily converted to fat, and it's not easily excreted as nitrogenous waste like uric acid and urea, and a lot of the extra protein that those calories you didn't need is converted into growth promoting hormones that now age you more rapidly and promote cancer.
So you
And
say
that happens with any type of animal protein, including egg whites. But there, it seems that milk might be more IGF-1 promoting. In most of the large studies, processed meats are the most disease promoting, then red meats are next. But even eggs and fowl and fish still have been shown to increase risk of early life death in the proportion that people eat them in their diet. Obviously, if you're holding something to like a condiment level or occasional use or under 5% of total calories, then it's not going to have a significant effect on raising IGF-1. But you do what most Americans do and eat a big serving of animal product at each meal and drive your IGF-1 over 200, you're going to be living in the cancer zone. So it depends on, in other words, what does the word plant-based mean? Does it mean totally vegan? Does it mean mostly plants with a little bit of animal product? And I don't know what it means per se, but we know that as you get from 5% and below, you don't see too much risk. And as you go to 5 to 10, like most of the blue zones, you still see most people do okay. But as you go from 10% of animal products to 15, 20, 25, you start to see disease rates start to skyrocket. And Americans eating over 30% animal products. And then everybody gets heart attacks and cancers across the modern world. And then you have these people advocating paleo diets, keto diets, and carnivore diets, which then have been shown now in long-term studies to put you at the highest risk of premature death with the high amount of animal products.
Now, isn't this a corollary to T. Colin Campbell's research, where I won't have it exactly right, but in China, as more McDonald's opened up, fast food proliferated, cancer proliferated. Did I get the gist of that right? Or I think
of course, McCancer. But now we have, that's one study. And, one study is always good, but it's okay when we have 50 to 100 more studies that corroborate that, or 1,000 studies that are following people for 25 years until their death and on different dietary protocols in other words, we have so much aligned corroboration. So that's an old study that people may have questioned. And how, was it just correlation or was it causation? But now we have so many studies that the evidence becomes an avalanche, and then it becomes irrefutable at this point that we need to eat a lot of plants and a lot of variety of colorful plants to maximize human longevity.
Wow. I know you mentioned previously Gbombs. Now, Gbombs is just an acronym for healthy things to eat, or are they even more than that, essential things for wellness?
Well, they're the foods that they mentioned, the first letter of the food groupings that show the most scientific support for extending human lifespan and having the most powerful anti-cancer benefits. And the Gbombs, Gbombs, stands for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. So it really gives, we know like things like flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds have incredible, fascinating effects to prevent cancer. Actually, a study was done on women with breast cancer, and the ones that had some lignans in their diet, about 0.5 milligram of lignin a day. And don't forget, a teaspoon of ground flax seeds has 7 milligrams of lignans. And these people had just had 0.5 milligram of lignin a day. And their risk of breast cancer death over that 10-year period went down by 71% in those people eating the lignans compared to those people not. And that's just one little food element in seeds.
So when you say lignans, what's that?
Lignans are a phytoestrogen that's contained in like flax seeds, chia seeds, sesame seeds, you know what I mean? So it's a very powerful anti-cancer substance. I was just throwing a dart at one of those foods to give an example of how much power it had to fight cancer, because the real money's in the synergy of all these foods in a dietary portfolio. Any one of these foods, look at mushrooms in certain studies shown to reduce breast cancers by 64% just by eating 10 grams of mushrooms a day, the size of your thumb. But when you put the mushrooms together with greens and with lignin and with seeds, so when you eat the whole where the whole portfolio, including Gbombs, the immune system becomes powerful, and disease becomes very hard for disease to develop in the body, or even cancer to develop, any kind of cancer to develop.
So Duran or Duran,
Dorian?
Duran, maybe you know her.
Oh, Duran's a person. Okay. Yeah. I thought you were naming this a fruit called durian. I thought you were naming
durian. No, but very good though. Her question was about fruit. Why don't Gbombs include fruit, including durian?
Gbombs, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. It includes fruit in the form of berries, because berries, cherries, pomegranates, passion fruit, guava, all these fruits have tremendous effect at protecting against cancer. But the reason it includes berries, because we want to focus on the foods that have the most power to prevent cancer. So fruits, actually the WHEAL study, the Women's Healthy Eating and Living study, showed that vegetables had the most powerful effect on preventing cancer, including breast cancer. But women who ate fruits and vegetables had better protection against cancer than those eating vegetables alone. So one of the principles of a nutritarian diet is not just eating a lot of kale and broccoli, it's eating a wide diversity of foods and all the different categories of foods, including fruits and beans and mushrooms and nuts and seeds and all these different things. So that fruit is not off the table, it's on the table, but we don't want it to be a fruitarian diet. We want to have a lot of everything, include all those foods in our diet.
Wow. Very, very, very interesting. And so what happened to apples and peaches?
What happened to them?
Yeah, what happened to them?
They're there. They're great. And, apples and peaches are good, but they don't have as much anti-cancer benefits as berries and cherries do, because obviously there's more polyphenols and concentrated phytochemicals and small things with more skin. Like, for example, wild blueberries are a little tiny. So you have more surface area with a high dark content so they're very powerfully beneficial against cancer. So when scientists do studies on like wild blueberry powder, they can reverse squamous cell cancers of the throat by people just taking these powders of wild berries. They're so powerfully effective against cancer. So there's beneficial ingredients in these things to make those foods healthy foods. Because when you take things that are sweet, but has the phytochemicals and the fibers and the antioxidants, then the sweetness no longer has a harmful effect. When you take the apple juice or apple sugar or something, taking the sugar out of the food or the oil out of the food, and you take away the nutritional part or the fiber part of the phytochemical, the lignin part, or the other benefits with those foods, you remove the calories from the matrix that house them, then you have perverted and abnormal things happen in the body.
What about the apple cider we got yesterday? No potassium, no addition. It's not pasteurized. Is some of that? Is it better?
You threw away the fiber and you threw away the skin. You're flirting with a food that's no longer healthy. You turned a healthy food into not as bad as soda or sugar water, but apple juice is not a healthy food.
No, apple cider, like fresh pressed apple cider.
I understand. Yeah.
No, not better. Damn, I'm in trouble with my kids. That's bad.
It's not great. I mean, they're much better off eating that. It's not, they're much better off eating the whole apple.
Right. That's my grandfather used to say that. Grandpa Joe used to say that. He lived about 90, so he had a good run. So a couple of things. Last chance if you want to drop a question or two in there. I'm going to put in the link to our Facebook group. This recording will be there free just through the end of the month. If anyone wants to see the recording. And, we're a sports family. I'm a sports person. I think that kind of transcends things and get people, it's disarming somehow because everyone likes a Steph Curry, but you were an athlete yourself. So I was intrigued to find out that you were in the Olympics back in the day.
So I was third I was second in the United States in pairs figure skating with my sister. The number one team above us had quit, and we were number one in the United States in line for the title. And I would have, so I was kind of like, And then I got hurt and couldn't compete in the 76 Olympics. But I got back in shape again to a certain degree and came in third in the world after the Olympic Games in the World Professional Championships. But I did not compete in the 76 Olympics because of an injury to my heel.
And what do you think, that tenacity, that focus, you talked about Federer, and I think there's a certain vigilance that people need to bring to their diet, which people don't want to hear that. People like, I need my donut, I work so hard, but, how does that vigilance and training tie into wellness and nutrition?
Well, I think that we have, the ability to reach our full potential as human beings. And our happiness has a lot to do with us appreciating the outside world, having full emotions and care for the world around us, including other people. And I feel that the modern food industry and the fast food industry and the processed food industry has sucked the life out of people and changed their personalities. And people are no longer passionate about what they're doing. I was very passionate about ice skating. I loved performing in ice, practicing. And I became passionate about going to medical school to be a physician specializing in nutrition, because I knew that I could have such a powerful effect on people and keep them well. And I get so much personal satisfaction and pleasure from watching people get well and reverse their diseases. So when people come to me with lupus or headaches or heart disease or diabetes, or I can say, you can get better and get all well again. We can get you off those dangerous drugs, and you don't have to have angioplasty or bypass surgery. You don't have to have a heart attack. So I get excitement and thrill from motivating and coaching people to be the best, to gain back their health, to get back fit again. So it's fun. And it's almost like so what I'm saying is, and you take this person and they've changed their life, and then they become a role model. And they get these superpowers to affect other people and to be an example and have a positive effect on other people. It's very, very engaging and we could say infectious and hard to resist, trying to help other people. You know what I mean?
It's different kind of infectious.
Yeah, good type of infection. I always say to people, I'm giving a lecture to a crowd of like 700 people, and I say to them, raise your hand if you know somebody who's been like shot by a bullet in their torso or their neck, or nobody raised their hand. One person raised their hand. Anybody like stabbed by a knife in there, who's been stabbed by a knife? Raise your hand. Nobody raises their hand. And I say, okay, so raise your hand if you know anybody in your family or your friends, your family, your neighborhood who has cancer or a heart attack or a stroke. How about that? And like everybody's hand goes up. And I say, what? And you're going to remain living in that neighborhood? That's incredibly dangerous neighborhood? That's where you're going to choose to live? You want to be in the same neighborhood as everybody else who's dropping dead all around you? When we could live free of fear and free of those diseases and live 30 years longer without mental deficits and with our physical body intact? Why shouldn't we fully enjoy our life? Living is exciting and fun, and I enjoy sports and all kinds of things to enjoy, whether it's art or entertainment or sports or hiking or whatever you love to do. You can pursue music, you can pursue your passion, you can still have your full intellectual and creative you, and you can still be you enjoy your life to your later years, to be pushing 100 years old if you take great care of your health. Why not have a great life?
Right. And it's not many things, especially in this crazy world, you have control over, a person has control over, but you do have control over what you watch and what, where you choose to be and what you eat. I mean,
what you put in your mouth. Who's gonna put the right things in your mouth if it's not going to be you? Why wouldn't people do what's in their best interest? Why would they behave against their own personal interests if it wasn't for the fact that these designer foods are designed to be highly addicting and they're sucking the life out of people? And it takes some coaching, some knowledge, some degree of guidance to get people off this roller coaster of premature death and suffering.
Wow. Okay, so how can people find you and find more about your work?
drfuhrman.com is the simplest way. drfuhrman.com. Start to get more information. And we don't just give the talk, but we also show people how to make it taste great too, and how to make, and support people. So obviously, and let me know how you do. I love to hear from people on their successes. One of the most exciting things about doing PBS, doing 5 television shows on public television, watched by millions of people, was the fact that I get so many people writing me of how it changed their life and how it saved their lives, and that's really a feel-good experience too.
Yeah, that's exciting, and that's part of, I mentioned before, of building this online community. We're going to have weekly accountability groups, support groups, to help keep us on track. Because, like you said, accountability support is important. So, any last words before we sign off?
Yes. I really enjoy talking to you and all these people tonight, but I just wanted to say
that I'll let you have the last word. I just want to say thank you for reminding me. It's been a pleasure and an honor to really have you here, and you have the last word.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that don't be satisfied with being sick. If you're on blood pressure medications, diabetic medications, whatever it is you're suffering from, don't just accept the fact that you have to be sick and take drugs the rest of your life. Because this miraculous self-healing body can right itself when given the optimal environment for healing.
Wow. Excellent. All right, Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and thanks everyone for showing up and for participating, and great to have all of you in the audience, and also to have Dr. Fuhrman here. Thanks so much. I think we're going to check off now. Thanks again, Dr. Joel.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.